Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video, and welcome to episode 184 of our Bossk Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, then please leave your question in the comment section below of this video, and hopefully you'll be featured next week. Before we get on to the first question, I just want to thank everybody that watched my throne room video. That video's done really well, and to anyone that shared it on social media, really appreciate it. It all does help, so thank you so much for that. As you can see, I do have the throne room as the backdrop of today's video. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first one being I wanted to get it set up with some more figures in it, and two, I haven't really found a place for it yet. It's big, I'm yet to find a place for it on my shelves, and I also wanted to just get sort of like a mixture of figures in there. So we've got some from Mando, Book of Boba Fett era, but we've also got some original trilogy ones in there as well. I could have put my Jabba on there from the sail barge, but you know, he's in the sail barge at the moment, so I'm gonna have to wait until we get that new one that comes out next year. I also want to say a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and channel members that attended our exclusive live stream last night. It was awesome chatting to you, having some of you on screen and just talking Star Wars basically. And congratulations to Jacob, who won the giveaway as well. So if you want to become a Patreon supporter or channel member, the links are in the description below. You can check out the perks, and if you're interested, then sign up. Really appreciate it. Alright then, with all that being said, let's get on to the first question of the week. Alex Wren says, awesome videos always. Question for next week: do you know if Hasbro Pulse backers in Asia are included with the US Europe backers? Yeah, this is a strange one that I think we do definitely need to clear up. I'm going to be speaking to some other guys in the community to see if we can get a definitive answer from Hasbro. Essentially what's happened is a post was created in the Vintage Collection Facebook group, the one run by my friend John Miko, and somebody got in contact with Hasbro Customer Services and was asking about the Asian backers on Pulse, because their number was slightly different to the US, North America and UK. The North America and UK is exactly the same, but the Asian one is slightly different. So we're trying to work out what this means, because customer services are basically saying, yeah, that 9,000 odd on the Asian one is getting added to the North American UK one, which means we've already smashed past the 17,000. However, I'm not 100% sure about that, because we also do need to consider the people that are in Australia and New Zealand. And I'm thinking there may be a mistake here in terms of, you know, it might be those people that are added on at the end. So all of the sales that are done through EB Games and Zing Pop Culture in those other countries, I'm pretty sure the Hasbro Pulse numbers in Asia have already been added. That's my just opinion. I'm not 100% sure, but as I say, we do need to clarify this, and we do need to sort of get them a definitive word on this, because it's not good. If people think that it's already there, then there's no urgency in trying to sort of get more backers basically. But hopefully we'll have a definitive answer on that shortly. But in my opinion, I think maybe we're still at like nearly 9,500, 10,000 or whatever it is at this moment. And the backers from people that buy it from non-Pulse sources, so your EB Games and things like that, they're going to be the ones that are going to be added on later. But as I say, that is not definitive. Alex Howe says, hey BB, with Hasbro's love of reusing stuff, I find it odd how we don't have a Clone Wars version of Bo-Katan yet. The main difference I can see is the holsters being more like the Clone Wars Death Watch Mando. Do you think we could get a Clone Wars version figure of her to go with Pre-Vizsla and the Death Watch Mandos? Yeah, I guess it is a little bit strange, but then I think maybe the reason we haven't seen that is because the Bo-Katan that we do have is obviously based on her live action appearance. And then when we see human characters in the Clone Wars, they are also made to look like a realistic interpretation. So it's almost like we've already got her. Maybe the Clone Wars one wouldn't be different enough for them to warrant doing it. Maybe they think that we've already got that character covered. But as you say, they do like to reuse stuff, so it could be potential for the future. Who knows? But yeah, I don't find it strange, because I don't really think there'd be a huge amount of difference in the two figures. Certainly with the head sculpt. Because I think when they don't have a actor to go by, they have to sort of make it up themselves, what that person would look like, going from cartoon to realistic. But of course, in Bo-Katan's case, we do know what the actress looks like. So that head, essentially, I think, will just be plonked onto a Clone Wars version anyway. Rob Ernest says, great vid as always, BB. I'm going to ask the burning question on everyone's mind. How do you feel about Hasbro making a Life Day Chewbacca for the Vintage Collection? Happy to see your feeling better and keep up the excellent content. I'm not too sure if that question's on everyone's mind particularly, but I'm going to answer it anyway, Rob. I really don't mind. I mean, it's not really something that I would have been clambering for necessarily, but it's, as far as I'm aware, it's not going to have a vintage collection number. It's only going to be a Shop Disney thing. It's to coincide with the fact that the parks celebrate, you know, Life Day and all that kind of stuff, holiday special. I think it's a bit quirky and pretty cool for the vintage collection. It's on the vintage collection packaging, but it's not numbered as far as I'm aware. So, you know, if it is a mainline figure, then I'd probably have a different opinion. Mr. Ultra 1996 says, hey boss, glad to hear you're feeling much better. Question for next week. I noticed that with all the reveals from San Diego that there was no mention of older vintage collection figures getting reissued as we have had before. I don't know if it's that popular, but with some of the older figures like the Attack Commander, Dengar and Pruneface all being quite expensive on the secondary market, for me personally it would be quite welcomed, as with Weequay, because I missed out on them first time around. Do you think Hasbro will eventually get around to reissuing most figures from TVC 1.0? Many thanks. I did a video a while ago now which was about figures that I think are safe from reissue, and that means that actual figure. One of them was Grand Moff Tarkin, for example, because I knew we were going to be getting the new officer sculpt, so what's the point of putting out that older officer sculpt with the horrible skirt when you've got a new one that you can put a brand new Tarkin head on, for example. So I'm not against the reissues. I'm all for, you know, new collectors being able to get the figures, but I do think it should be figures that are worthy of a re-release. So you mentioned the Attack Commander there. Of course, it's a great card back. General Veers or the Attack Commander, whichever one you think it is, in that armour is very, very cool. But as I say, now we've got that Piet uniform, I would actually want to see a proper General Veers, very much like they did in the Black Series. Even if it was released on that card back again, I wouldn't really mind. Give it a new number. But I think the figures, first and foremost, have to be good enough to be reissued. Dengar's good enough for me. I don't really think anything really needs to be done for him. But ones like the Attack Commander, Grand Moff Tarkin, the clones, you know, you can't release one of those old clones now that we have the new one. But you're right, it has gone a bit quiet on that sort of thing. I don't think they're going to stop doing that. I'm sure they'll find ones that they want to reissue. There were some that were rumoured a while back which haven't come to fruition, so we'll just have to wait and see if anything gets revealed at PulseCon, for example. Eduardo Vega says, have you seen the recent pictures of newest figures Hera Sabine and Darth Malgus for the Black Series? Apparently, split at the thigh has been removed. A lot of Black Series collectors are mad about it because it could affect the figure's articulation. Do you think this could happen to the Vintage Collection figures too? First of all, yeah, I think it could happen to the Vintage Collection figures because the Black Series and TVC figures are, you know, very, very close these days, except of course the height and size of them. Articulation is becoming very, very close between the two. They often use the same digital sculpt and, you know, minimize it down or blow it up, whichever the case may be. So it could absolutely happen. Whether or not it's a bad thing and people are kicking off about it, I'm not 100% sure. I did hear some people saying that, you know, you don't need that thigh cut because the hips are so much better now. There's like a new hip articulation, and because of that you don't need the thigh cut. I don't know that for sure. I'd want to get one in hand before I comment on that. But if you're saying that the Black Series people are annoyed and they've got that figure in hand and it doesn't do as much as it used to in terms of posing, then obviously that's a bad thing. Tony J says, question for next week. Enjoyed your Book of Boba Fett throne room video. What was your favourite accessory or small detail included with the set? So it has to be, I mean, there's so many. I think there's 50 accessories that come with this. It has to be for me the droid, the protocol droid's head there, which I actually did film for my video, but for some reason it didn't record, and that part of it, looking at that thing, is missing from my throne room review. But it's basically the tiny little protocol head there with the wires coming through. I just think that's really, really good. You know, at the end of the day, the Jabba's palace is no safe place for droids, is it? As we know. And I just think that's a nice little touch having that on that plate there. So I'd have to pick that. S. Nicholas says, hi Tim, question for next week. Do the Wolf and Colt clone heads fit on the new 212 Phase 2 body? Looking for a little variety. Thanks for all you do. So I got my friend Tyler's input on this because I couldn't actually get to my figures at the time. So I asked him if he wouldn't mind. He has all of his figures on display. This is Tyler from the SWTVC group. And although the barbell for the neck joint is ever so slightly different between the two, they do fit. So in answer to your question, yes, you will be able to put those heads onto the clone body. I do believe that he does have a bit of a short neck when you do it, but I think the new clones suffer from that a little bit anyway. Lamar Avery says, now that the Ghost is funded, do you think we'll get other figures from Rebels like young Ezra, Agent Kallus, and the other Inquisitors? I think if we hit the 17,000 and smash through it, that'll be a huge indication to Hasbro that characters from Rebels are popular and they are wanted in the vintage collection. So I think absolutely we could see things like that come out in the future, especially if they do well in brackets and things like that. The SWTVC bracket next year, March Madness, is going to be very interesting because a lot of the figures over the last few years are being made, including Dooku, for example, that's always done really well. And the Ghost crew are always in there and they don't need to be in there anymore. So they'll be replaced maybe with, as you say, Agent Kallus, Inquisitors, things like that perhaps. But yeah, I think, you know, if you show Hasbro that something's popular, then they will release more things for it. Dwayne Cook says, great video once again. Question for next time. With them releasing Jabba again, do you think maybe we have a chance of getting the Hutt twins from the Book of Boba Fett, or even Zero the Hutt? I think they would be awesome. Not sure if everyone would though. I imagine that price would be fairly high. Yeah, that isn't something that I could see them doing. For one reason, the Jabba that we're getting in the new set is just a re-release with better paint apps from the one that came with the barge. So that kind of indicates, doesn't it? I think if they were to do those twins, you'd want them to look different to Jabba, because they do look different to Jabba, essentially. You'd want them to have a completely different head, for example, and I just don't think the investment's going to be in there for something like that. As I say, the one that we're going to be getting in that Jabba set is just a reissue. They're not having to spend any more money on the tooling or anything for that one. Chris from Toys of the Jedi says, hi Tim, another great video, keep them coming. Question for next week, with the tiers all revealed, what do you think Hasbro will do to boost the Ghost backers along the rest of the campaign window? This is a difficult one because essentially all the cards are on the table. You know, this is what you're getting. You've got to hit 17,000. So what will they do to sort of help boost it? I'm not really sure if they're going to do anything in particular, really. I think once we hit the 17,000, then potentially we could see something new. Maybe the promise of making other stuff like they did with the Razor Crest. I think they said, you know, by the time this thing ships, you'll have all of the characters. Well, not all of them, but most of the main characters that interacted with the Razor Crest. Maybe they could do something similar. Maybe they could say, you know, if we do hit 17,000, then you can expect some more of the Rebels characters to come out, you know, in the next year and a half or whatever. Maybe something like that. In terms of an extra tier, that I would really like a flight stand for it. I think it definitely misses a flight stand. Obviously, you can display it on its feet, on its struts, landing gear, whatever you want to call it. But it would be nice to sort of raise those up and have it like flying at an angle or something, just like you can with the crest. I know that that would have to be quite a big stand, but I think that would be a pretty cool addition. Revan Studio says, hey BB, great video as always. Question for next week. I won't be buying the Ghost because I can't afford it, but what do you think the price of the figures that are included with the Ghost will be in the aftermarket, eBay, Mercari, etc.? It's difficult to say right now, but the Bib Fortuna, this one here that came with the throne room, I've seen this selling for around between 50 and 60 pounds. So, or maybe one even went for 40, I can't remember. Will they be the same? I think they might be a touch more because it's such an expensive set. So I think anywhere maybe between 70 and 100 each, I would imagine. If you sell all three, you could potentially maybe get 250, 300, which pays for, you know, half, a little bit more than half of your Ghost, essentially. Some people might just want the vehicle. I'm guessing with the Ghost, though, that a lot of people maybe want to hang on to those figures that are backing it. Whereas with Bib Fortuna, it's an easy one to let go if you just want the throne room, because then you want to put Jabba in it and make it Return of the Jedi, or put Fett in it like I have there. You know, a lot of people might not be too bothered with Bib Fortuna. I think that might be a bit different with the Rebels crew, and people might want to hang on to those. Scott Whitehouse says, hi Tim, another brilliant Q&A, and thank you for shouting out loud about the ridiculous Sabine helmet debacle from Hasbro's latest release. As a community, we must tell them when something is not acceptable. Anyway, question for next week, what are your thoughts on those lazy pipelines except Dooku? They're repacks, repaints of slightly altered old figures, some very old in terms of articulation. Are they saving a bit of money after all the work they put into the Ghost? Don't Hasbro realise how the community was likely to react? We're likely to see Cassian in that uniform in Season 2 of Andor, so give us a new version, not a cynical, cheap for them, photo real repack. I've no words for their re-release of that out-of-date Finn and another Axe Woves. Instead of riding the crest of a wave created by the amazing HasLab, they've taken a few steps backwards and it's disappointing. To be fair to Hasbro on this subject of riding the wave, the Ghost was revealed at the same time as those pipelines, so they didn't know if they're going to be riding a wave or, you know, falling off their surfboard, basically. So I can't really say that it's that, but I totally agree with you. The pipelines are pretty poor on this occasion. The fin, as you say, out-of-date fin. He was a peg warmer in the 3.75-inch Black Series. I was astounded to find out that the Cassian isn't a new Cassian, and it's essentially a repack of that 3.75-inch Black Series one that's already been re-released in the Vintage Collection with just photo real. He's going to need an all-new head, in my opinion, to bring him up to the standard of the other two Andor figures that we've had. Dooku was absolutely brilliant, of course. I'm all happy for a Phase 1 clone, but the rest of them, pretty lackluster indeed. Let's just hope that there's other figures in 2024 which are going to blow our minds, because those seriously did not. Jacob Is says, hey BB, many people, myself included, have noticed that the number of backers for the Ghost has plateaued a bit over the past few days. Do you think that all the tiers will be unlocked by the end of the campaign? Personally, I'm very worried that they won't be. This is the second HasLab campaign that I've backed, the first one being the Black Series Rancor, rest in peace. So I'm unaware if something like this has happened during the Razor Crest campaign or any other HasLabs for that matter. So on this subject, I would point you in the direction of my buddy Chris at banthskull.com. He wrote a really great article on this, and it's basically saying that you almost get the same amount of backers in the last 3 days, or the final 3 days, as you do in the first 3 days. Now, we hit the 8,000 or 9,000 or whatever it was, 8,000 I think it was, wasn't it, to get it backed in maybe 3 or 4 days. So we could hopefully expect at least another 7,000 backers in the final 3 days. I think there's always a lull with crowdfunding in that middle part of the campaign. We've still got over 30 days to go. I really am not worried. We've also got the boost that the Ahsoka show will have, hopefully, if it's good. We just saw a recent TV spot drop which had the Ghost flying. So it's going to have a starring role in that show, the Ghost. So let's hope that really does boost the backers. But at this point in time, I'm not worried. And as Chris says in that article, we shouldn't be complacent. But, you know, I don't think we should be worried at this point. I don't think we should panic. I'm pretty sure we're going to get all of those tiers. Alan Larkin says, hi Tim, question for next week. Now we are over 300 figures in TVC. It seems Hasbro can't keep track of their numbering system. VC66 and VC67 should never have been numbered, and then we get 2 numbered VC177s and stuff up with the 2 VC211, one normal and the other a deluxe. We are missing VC271. Do you think Hasbro knows this, and would they do something similar when they numbered the Jedi Survivor 3-pack with VC188 to fill when they missed VC188? Thanks for all you do for the community. Yes, absolutely. This is my thinking. I'm pretty sure that VC271 was more than likely supposed to be the Bib Fortuna. Obviously, they've numbered that the same as the Colt figure. So yeah, absolutely. I think maybe we'll get some random 4-pack or something, or 3-pack, and you'll get a bunch of numbers in the 300s, and then you'll just get VC271 snuck in there. I'm pretty sure they're aware about it, that, you know, we make enough noise about this sort of thing. Unless some other figure that hasn't been announced suddenly pops up and it has that number. But it does seem like they've missed it, but I'm pretty sure they'll go back to it at some point. Mandalorian Santos says, hey BB, great content as always. I have a question relating to the Ghost HasLab. So you think we will pass the goals to get other members of the crew, like undercover painted Chopper or the first Phantom ship that can attach to the Ghost? So yeah, as I mentioned in the previous question, I do think we'll hit the goals. Whether we'll fly past it to open other unlocks and other tiers is another matter. But yeah, I think this is similar to the previous question about Callas, other figures from Rebels. Undercover painted Chopper is a great shout, because at the end of the day, I think it's obvious that we will be getting Chopper somehow on a card back, maybe from the Ahsoka show. And if that's the case, they could easily repaint that one for the undercover painted Chopper, and I could see them doing that. That's an awesome idea. As for the Phantom 1, I personally think that obviously we've got that one from back in 2015 that doesn't attach. I think if there's enough clambering for that, then absolutely they could do a remake of that one that does connect and have the proper weathering and the correct size and things like that. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to sell enough ghosts to warrant doing that, because without, I don't know, 20,000 ghosts out there, why make the Phantom 1? Starkiller says, great to see you're feeling well rested and back to doing your weekly Q&A video. Question for next week: with the upcoming VC300 figure, What do you think it might be, and is there anything you'd like to see as the 300th figure? I really hope they do something special for reaching 300 figures and still going strong for our amazing TVC line. I would like to see a special card back and figure, perhaps a villain like Director Krennic. Thanks, BB. I personally feel that it's going to be like something from the original trilogy, maybe one of the main heroes. We've been going on about making the mains and things like that, and they have revealed a figure that is number 301, so they're leaving that gap basically, and I feel that it'll be something that comes out next year, and I think they're saving it for something special. Well, Patrick said he's saving it for something special, so to me that has to be original trilogy main character. I don't know which one, but I think it'll be one of those. That's just my personal opinion, and that is what I would want. You asking me what I would like it to be? I think that's fitting that it should be one of those. Maybe Luke or Leia or something. One of those two. Maybe Han Solo, but Luke or Leia, one of the twins would be the ideal choice for VC300. Owen Brown says, question for next week, what is your top 4 prediction for the Prem? So this is the English Premier League. It's football or soccer for you guys in the US, and I personally feel that it's going to be more competitive than ever. Trying to get into that top 4 is going to be fierce. There's going to be teams like Chelsea and Spurs that didn't do too well last year that are going to be back on track. I think Aston Villa are going to be going for that top 4 spot as well. But in terms of the top 4, I can't really look past Man City, Man United, Arsenal and Liverpool. I think that'll be the top 4 in that order, with maybe Arsenal and Liverpool switching round. But I think City will win the league, Man United second. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comment section below. I want to thank you all for watching, and be sure to watch the throne room video if you haven't done already. And if you have watched it already, what's wrong with watching it again? Thank you so much guys, and thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Your support means a great deal to me as always. It was awesome to see you guys last night on the exclusive live stream. Thanks for watching everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.